Welcome to Module 4.1, Why Billionaires Use Stock Filters. In this lesson, we have two learning objectives. The first one is how Warren Buffett used a stock screener before it was invented, and the second one is the benefit of using a stock filter. Billionaire Warren Buffett, the most successful stock investor throughout the history, has served as an amazing mentor to me. I'd studied everything I could about him, and the more I learn about him, the less I'm surprised by his massive financial success. In the countless books that I read about him, I learned how he, as a child, used to buy a six-pack of Cokes for a quarter from his uncle and selling each of them for a nickel to the kids in the neighborhood. I've also learned how Warren Buffett, as a teenager, took jobs like washing cars and delivering newspapers so he could use that cash flow to buy pinball machines that he could rent out to the local barbershops for a juicy commission. The more I read the stories, the more impressed I've got. But in the beginning, he didn't come off to me as anything more than another thrifty kid with a knack for business. Or that was until I learned about Warren Buffett's method of identifying the best stocks. Back in the days, Moody's published huge manuals, which back then was the ultimate stock market resource. Buffett's search strategy was simple. He took these manuals and went through each of them page by page. All 10,000 pages. Buffett employed an intense search strategy to say the least. Looking back, what he did was actually to use a stock screener. And this was decades before the computer, not to speak of the internet, was invented. Today, as well as back then, Warren Buffett was heavily influenced by the book The Intelligent Investor. Widely recognized as the most important investment book ever written, the book advocates for a very quantitative approach to stock investing. For instance, the author Benjamin Graham, who would later become Buffett's professor at Columbia and eventually mentor and dear friend, showed how an active investor should search for companies with current assets of at least 150% of current liabilities. He argued why the best stock picks should have no deficit for at least 5 years and why your return would be crippled if you paid more than 120% of net tangible assets. Using those metrics and many other key ratios, Buffett flipped through all the listed American companies in Moody's manual. He automatically noted which companies that would match the criteria laid out in The Intelligent Investor, and thereby filtered it down to a number of stocks that he would analyze further. Clearly, this was a lot of hard work, even for someone as smart as Warren Buffett. The system could hardly be called automated, and countless hours were put into researching stocks. Warren Buffett's hard work paid off, and his performance back then was annually 50% plus, which today seems unrealistic to achieve. A part of his secret was definitely that the process couldn't be automated, so very few people competed with him to find the very best stock picks. Another reason for his high returns was, as he explains it himself, he was only investing for peanuts. This was before he would be managing millions, taking over Berkshire Hathaway, and eventually turn his investment portfolio into billions of dollars. So, can you make similar returns to Warren Buffett? Well, I have some good and some bad news, and if we start out with the latter, to get that out of the way, I would be highly surprised if you can achieve 50% annual return. Few people, if anyone, has this talent and is willing to dedicate his life to investing as he has done. It is by no means my goal to discourage you, but I wouldn't feel right about hinting in any way that you should target returns like that. However, one advantage that you have today that Buffett didn't have is that you can apply the same methodology, and you can do it a lot faster. Today, you can find free stock screeners online that give you the same output in a matter of seconds that Warren Buffett spent days, if not weeks, to identify. The Intelligent Investor taught not only Warren Buffett, but the investment community at large that by identifying and investing in stocks with characteristics like low debt and priced cheaply compared to the net assets, you don't have to do extensive research to outperform the market. And here's more good news. Remember how I said that Warren Buffett described the size of his portfolio as peanuts? One of the main reasons he could achieve the returns he could was because he invested for less than $1 million, which is a surprisingly advantageous position to be in, and one that applies to 99% of all investors. The relatively small amount allowed him to invest in the smallest and most mispriced stock you can find among thousands and thousands of stocks. You have that advantage too, and we're going to see later in Module 4.5 how you can put that advantage into practice. Okay, so enough talking about what a stock screener is. In case you haven't used one, I'll just quickly show you what I mean. Here is Google's completely free stock screener. For simplicity, I just included one criterion in the filter, namely the PE. I'm very interested in getting the highest possible expected return, so I would be willing to pay, say, between $1 and $8 for $1 in annual earnings of the stock. As you can see here, the stocks then rank from the cheapest to the most expensive stocks based on the criterion. Just like Warren Buffett did whenever he flipped through the Moody's manual, you can be more specific and add another popular criterion like price to book and the price to sales to find an even better match for your stock portfolio. Now keep in mind that I mean two different things when I say a stock screener and a stock filter. A stock screener is what you're seeing here, where you have to do a little bit of work yourself and define what is most important for you. Typically, when I refer to a filter, on the other hand, that is the output that you see down here. You can also look at it like this. You need to set the stock screener correct to have it filter the best possible stocks for you. I'll recommend all investors to play around with, if not Google Stock Screener, then another. You'll quickly grow your knowledge about key ratios in doing so, and it's a great way to kickstart your research for building your portfolio. However, what you will also experience once you become more familiar with the tool is the challenges you'll face, and this is also how we start the next lesson.